Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in our series, In the Light of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on each and every one of you. Our program, In the Light of Islam, is dedicated to you, dear viewers. It's to answer your questions about Islam. We hope that you would write into us, call us, fax us, email us, and let us know what questions you have to answer, you'd like to get answers for. And it can be on any topic concerning Islam or related to Islam. We'll be only too glad to answer them for you, because, as I said, this program is dedicated to you. You may write in to me, Dr. Bilal Phillips, at P.O. Box 111, Sharjah, UAE. Or you can stick on there, of course, Sharjah Television. Dr. Bilal Phillips, Sharjah Television, P.O. Box 111, Sharjah, UAE, if you're outside of the country. And, of course, within the country, it's enough to put just Sharjah. You don't need to put UAE. Or you may email me through my website by writing in my guest book, BilalPhillips.com. Go to the website, go to the guest book, and leave a question there. It will be passed on to me. Or at my own email address, fld3@hotmail.com. You may also email me there. Or you may fax in your question to my office fax in Sharjah, 06, or if you're faxing from outside the country, 9716, then 5323724. And of course, you may call me or call in questions to me on my office phone in Sharjah, 06 5339864, or in Dubai, you may call 04, and if you're calling from outside the country, to be 9714, then 3350546. Now, we're going to look at some emails which were sent in. The first one is from Miss Qureshi. She writes saying, we've been watching your programs for some time now and we find it quite useful. We'd like you to answer a few questions for us. The first one, after death, does one go straight to heaven or hell? Well, no. When a person dies, they enter the state of the barzakh, or the state of the grave. There, the soul goes through a journey. This has been outlined in different books. There's a book called The Journey of the Soul, in English, available by Dr. Suhaib Hassan. And you can also find it described in great detail in another book called The Mysteries of the Soul by Abu Bilal al-Kennedy, where the soul when the soul is passed over by the angel of death to the angels of the next life. It's taken up to the heavens. The soul which is good will be allowed entry in, and it will be praised. The soul which is evil, it will be cast back down to reunite with the body or the body parts. And then angels will come to that individual in that state of the grave and question them. Two angels will come, one by the name of Munkar and the other one called Nakir. And they ask the question, who is your Lord? What was your religion? And who is the person who was sent to you, the messenger? Then one's deeds will be shown in the form of either a beautiful smelling, beautiful looking individual, or a hideous, nasty smelling, stinky individual. These will be personified and shown to us. And we'll question, what is this? Who is this? And, I should also mention that for the soul that was let into this heaven and praised, it will afterwards return back to the body or the body parts, right? To maintain its connection with the elements that was its body. And I say elements that was its body as opposed to just saying to the body, because we know there are people who are burnt. Hindus burn their bodies. There are people who allow the vultures to eat the body. For example, like the Zoroastrians, they put the dead up on these like beds, high beds, and they allow the birds to come and the vultures to come and devour the person. Then you also have people who die at sea and their bodies cast into the sea, so some sharks come and eat it up or whatever, and a variety of different ways that people may die, so where their body parts may be scattered. So we know that there is a connection that remains with the body. It is maybe the body as a whole, if it is in one spot, or the body parts wherever they go. The soul remains in contact. How? We don't go into that. This is what we know. So that what happens after that, there's a number of different incidents. The person who is unable to answer these questions in the grave, and of course, it's not a matter that we can say, well, okay, I heard in this world what the answer was, so as long as I remember it, I memorize it, I know what the answer is, I can say it then. No. The person who was not a true believer, who was a hypocrite, who only pretended to be a Muslim or called himself a Muslim or herself a Muslim, and they really weren't Muslims, they will not be able to answer. Even though in their minds they may know when they're asked, who is your Lord? They know it's Allah, but they can't say it. Allah will cause them to only be able to say, ah. They'll be stuck. It won't come out of their mouths. So they will experience this. This is part of the degradation the people who have rejected belief in this life will go through in that state of the grave prior to the resurrection. Now, once we step out of the time zone, we're no longer among the living, we're in the spirit world, the world of the barzakh. Of course, time does not affect us as it affects us in this life. So those people who died 10,000 years ago or 1,000,000 years ago, they are going through that same process like in the time frame the same as everybody else. So we're all resurrected together. It's not that some people are going to sit around in the grave or in the state of the grave for, thousands and thousands of years. No, everybody goes through the same process. They're resurrected at the same time and they're judged at the same time. But it is just not immediate. You don't go immediately to paradise or to hell. There are some other points which the person goes through, after it's clarified and the person's becomes clear that the person is in fact a disbeliever, great sinner, etc. Then the Prophet ﷺ said that a door from or a window from hell will open up, and the hot wind coming from the hell will pass over that person, continually until they're resurrected. And the one who was good, etc., then a window from paradise opens, and fragrant, pleasant air from paradise will pass over that person until the time of resurrection. The second question from Ms. Qureshi, visiting shrines. A friend of ours made it a point to visit a shrine before his exams for good results. We told him not to do this because it is shirk. But his argument was that he visited the same shrine a year before, after which he had obtained a very good result. This friend of ours is a Sunni Muslim, that is an Orthodox Muslim, and is a moderate practitioner otherwise. Some people who call themselves Muslims are engaged in such practices. Should we as believers consider them fellow believers or not? Well, 2 points in the question. One, the response for the person who says, well, when I went to the shrine, I got good results in my exams. So that tells me I should keep going. If I've got exams coming up, it's best for me to go to the shrine again. Well, this is the argument of the disbelievers in general. When a person speaks to a Christian, Jesus is not God. For you to worship Jesus, to call on him in prayer, this is shirk. This is the greatest sin that you could possibly commit. You're worshiping other than God. They say, but when we pray to Jesus, our prayers are answered. What do you say? Similarly, one goes to a Hindu and explains to the Hindu, this is a statue. This is something somebody made with their own hands. You shouldn't worship this. They say, well, when we worship this, our God, Ganesh or whoever, we get good things in our lives. Our lives are happy. We had success. In fact, we didn't used to worship, our idols very much. We weren't really into it. But when we had this really big problem and we decided, okay, we may as well give it a try, and we prayed to Ganesh, our situation was alleviated. Our lives changed. Everything is fine now. And similarly, if we go to a person who worships nature, he worships the trees, the water, the air, the sun, the moon, these things. And we tell them, this is not God. God is not in the water. He's not in the trees, in the air. He's not the planets. That individual can say the same thing. Well, when we have problems in the tribe, and we go and we pray to the gods of the water, we don't get that much fish, for example. Our fish, the fish that we're catching, our catch is very small. Then we go and we make some sacrifices to our god of the sea or the god of the river, and we are sincere in our prayers, our catch increases. We catch more fish. Okay, what do we do? What do we say? Now, the same thing that you would say to that person who worships the gods of the river or the sea is the same thing you say to the person who worships an idol or worships another human being or who goes and worships at the shrines where it's also worshiping other human beings. It's the same thing. It is God who has answered your prayers. Not that person, the saint in the shrine, or Jesus, or the idol Ganesh, or the gods of the rivers and the seas. It is God. There are people who don't worship God at all. Because we have to ask these same people, okay, all of these say, well, it's our God who answered. We say to them, what about the person who doesn't believe in any God at all, but he wants something to happen, and he wants it really bad, and he sets his intention, I want this thing, I need this thing, I'm going to get this thing, and he motivates himself to get this thing, and he gets it. And he didn't worship any God at all. So what do you, worshiper of the God of the rivers, say? You will tell him, no, it was the God of the river who gave you it. Or the one worshipping Ganesh will say, well, it was Ganesh who gave it to him. And the one worshipping Jesus says it was Jesus who gave it to him. And the one worshipping the saint in the shrine says it's the saint who gave it to him. But we say it is God. It is God who gave it to him. God in all these cases. The point is, God gives to everyone. Whether you believe in him or not, he gives. If you believe in him in the rivers and the seas, or in statues, or in human beings, God still gives. Otherwise, this life would not be a test. Because somebody would ask, why? Isn't that just confusing people? If God is going to give to the non-believer, then isn't that encouraging people not to believe in God? Or if God's going to give to the one who worships the gods of the rivers and the seas, isn't that encouraging them to worship these things? Does God want people to be misguided? No. God doesn't want people to be misguided. He wants people to be guided. And He put science in their lives, and He sent messengers, and He sent books of revelation, all of this to help us, while putting within ourselves a consciousness of right and wrong. All of that is there. But this life is a test. Will we act on the knowledge, the primeval knowledge which we have inside of our souls, knowing God? Or the understanding, the soul understanding of righteousness and corruption? Or the messages which came from the prophets and the books of revelation that have come to us? Will we believe in them and act in accordance with them, or will we not? This is the test of this life. Were it known that if you made all this motivation and set yourself up, nothing happens. You worship the gods of the rivers and the seas, no fish comes. You worship Ganesh, your business still fails. You worship Jesus, you still have calamities in your life. You worship the saint, your exams, you fail. But when you only worship Allah, you will pass your exams, calamities are removed, business successful, your catch is well, whatever you try to do, you succeed. If this became known, who would remain a disbeliever? Not a single person in the world would remain a non-Muslim worshipping Islam or worshipping God in Islam as he's supposed to worship. Not a single person. So this is a part of the test of this life. For the believers themselves. Because they raise their hands like everybody else, and they see their people are getting their prayers answered. So are they. What's the difference between us and them? Some of our prayers are answered, some of them are not. Well, the believers should know, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told them, "Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba." Call on Allah, being certain that all your prayers will be answered. All the prayers are answered. But you have to be sincere in your prayer. If you're sincere, then all prayers are answered. However, how does the answer come? Does it mean every time you put your hand up, you get whatever you ask for? When Allah said, وَيَدْعُ الْإِنسَانُ بِالشَّرِّ دُعَاهُ بِالْخَيْرِ, that a human being will ask for evil in their prayers for good. Meaning, they're asking for something they think is good, but in fact there is evil in it for them. They don't realize it. As Allah said elsewhere in the Quran, عَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Perhaps you may dislike something which is good for you. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. And perhaps you may love something which is evil for you. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And Allah knows and you don't know. That's the bottom line. So what happens is that when a person who is a true believer sincerely worships God, then Allah gives what is good for them. What is not, He will repel an equivalent amount of evil that would have come to them, or He will save it for them as good deeds added to their scale of good deeds on the Day of Judgment. So this is how we answer the individual who goes to the shrine. It is God, not the saint in the shrine. The second question, should we consider them to be Muslims, those going to shrines? Yes, they are Muslims. They are Muslims who are ignorant, they're misguided, they're in the wrong, but we don't declare them to be non-Muslims, disbelievers. This is not our job, this is not our responsibility. Now, technically speaking, if the evidence is brought to them clearly of the error of their ways and they still insist, then in fact, they would be classified as disbelievers. But there are a lot of conditions that involve bringing that evidence. It's not just you and I in the street, people off the street can say, okay, I brought the evidence, I showed them. If they're saying, well, they're listening to their sheikhs or whatever the sheikhs told them this is okay, and you come off the street, you have a little bit of knowledge, you're not able to convince them, then we cannot say the evidence has been brought to them. So it has to be brought by those people in knowledge, those people of, scholars who can bring all of the evidence to them and present a very clear picture. After that, if they refuse, then they fall into disbelief. With that, dear viewers, I'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of our program. And Ms. Qureshi will continue to answer your questions in the coming program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.